talked about this ahead of the holidays, and let's talk debt and credit cards with Anthony Chan again. He's the former chief economist at JPMorgan Chase. Always great to have you on. And I vividly remember speaking with you just before the holidays, talking about people shouldn't rack up large expenses on their credit cards right now and just hope to ride through. Now, the numbers we just talked about aren't good. Should we be worried? Is this possibly a crisis?
Well, I don't think it's a crisis yet, Sean, because the reality is when you look at all the types of debt that consumers have, like mortgages, car loans, credit cards, student loans, the credit cards is still a small share of all that debt. It's about 6%. So it's not significant. And you really have to ask yourself, Sean, why is this happening? And it's happening because we have inflation. If you look at the latest consumer credit numbers, they were basically growing at an annualized pace of 7.1%. And guess what? The latest numbers on the CPI is that inflation is rising by 7.1% year over year. So in a sense, a lot of this debt is growing because of inflation. And then the second part of it is that if you look at wage growth and you compare that to inflation, wage growth is actually not as strong as inflation. So consumers, in order to maintain their standard of living, are taking on additional debt. Here's where we can give advice to the consumer and say, hang in there, but don't try to beat the situation. If you're not earning as much as the inflation rate, maybe that's a signal that you should not be spending as quickly as the inflation rate is rising.
Yeah, but look at the rates on the back of these credit cards. They are simply staggering. And if we've all been to grocery stores recently, and I'm shocked about how expensive things have gotten in such a short period. The question is, are people using credit cards now for household expenses?
Well, we are seeing some of that because, again, if all of a sudden the money that you're earning at your job is not keeping pace with inflation, you're feeling a squeeze, and so you're using these credit cards, which you're correctly spot on by saying that that's exactly what they shouldn't be doing, because not only are these interest rates high, but they also are variable in the sense that as the Federal Reserve has been raising rates, the interest rates on these cards are getting higher and higher. So by using these credit cards to try to maintain the standard of living, the consumer is putting themselves in a much worse predicament than if they try to hold back. So yes, that's another issue. Now, when the Federal Reserve decides to pause or even start to go the other way, this problem will start to go away. But as far as we know, the Federal Reserve is so adamant about fighting inflation, they're not even thinking of lowering interest rates. Yeah. So consumers have to be aware of this great pitfall.
Yeah, the goal to pump the brakes and slow things down. So how can consumers use their credit cards to their advantage? Can they?
They can, because there's a lot of perks that you get when you use a credit card. Sometimes you get good stuff. You get points, you get miles, you get hotel benefits. But yet the key is to pay that credit card at the end of the month. Do not allow it to sort of grow over time, because when you do that, all the perks and all the benefits disappear, and the consumer gets stuck paying double-digit interest rates, in some cases over 20% interest rates. They certainly cannot justify any small perks that they get by using those cards.
Real quickly, just 15 seconds, is there a way to talk to the credit card companies and say, look, I'm in a bind, can you drop the rate?
Absolutely. A lot of people have done that. If they see that you have a steady payment record, they will work with you and they can lower the interest rate. But my best advice is don't get yourself in that predicament in the first place.
I hear you, my friend. Thank you so much.